I need you to hear me today, not with your ears, but with your spirit. Because what you're worried about right now, God is already working on. What keeps you awake at night, God has already stepped into. And what looks impossible in your hands is still very possible in God's hands. Pause. You didn't come here by accident. You're here because God wants you to stop stressing and start trusting. Today I came with an announcement, not an argument. I didn't come to tell you what you see. I came to tell you what God sees, and God sees doors you don't see yet. God sees resources you haven't touched yet. God sees provision already assigned to your name. So the message today is simple but powerful. God will open the door to your finances. So don't worry. Worry is not a strategy. Fear is not a plan. Panic is not preparation. Faith is. I want you to hear me carefully today. God is not limited by your current situation. Listen, life has a way of making us believe that where we are defines where we can go. You wake up in the same apartment, you see the same numbers in your bank account, the same struggles, the same bills. You feel like every door you try to open is locked. Every call you make is met with a busy signal, and every plan seems to hit a wall. I know it feels heavy. I know it feels like the mountain in front of you is bigger than you. But here's the truth. God doesn't see things the way we see them. God isn't bound by your yesterday, your today, or the mistakes you think you've made. God is not limited by what you currently have. Think about this for a moment. A seed is buried in dirt. It's dark. It's hidden. If you only look at the seed in the dirt, you would say, nothing is happening here. This seed will never grow. But that seed doesn't know the soil is rich. It doesn't know the sun is shining above, and it doesn't know that water will find it. Yet in the right season, that seed will break through the dirt, reaching higher than it ever imagined. That is how God works. Your current situation is like the dirt. It is temporary, it is necessary, but it does not define your destiny. The same God who commanded the seed to grow can open a path for you, even when the path seems invisible. I've seen people struggle with this all their lives. People who feel trapped in jobs that don't pay what they deserve. People who have debts, bills, and responsibilities stacking up higher than the walls around them. People who have dreams that seem impossible, who want to start businesses, travel, create, invest in themselves. But the fear of not having enough paralyzes them. But God is not limited by that fear. God is not limited by your lack. In fact, God is always looking for the people who are willing to keep moving, keep believing, even when the world says they shouldn't. Think about someone like Thomas Edison. People saw failure after failure, experiment after experiment that didn't work. And yet he saw potential beyond the situation. He saw possibilities beyond what anyone else could imagine. Because Edison believed there was more than the failure in front of him. He discovered the light bulb. What if he had given up? What if he had allowed the current situation to define him? The lesson is clear. God will never allow your current failure to define your outcome. And let me tell you something about daily life. Look at a small, ordinary moment. A person sitting on a crowded bus, running late, exhausted, thinking they are invisible to opportunity. Yet God could be arranging a meeting on that very bus that changes the course of their life. God is not limited by your timetable, your commute, or the chaos around you. That moment may seem ordinary to you, but to God, it's extraordinary. Doors are opening in places you don't even realize exist. Opportunities are lining up behind you while you are still figuring out what step to take next. You may feel like your finances are trapped, like there's no way out. But think about a river blocked by rocks and fallen trees. The water doesn't stop. It finds another way. It flows over, under, around, and even through the obstacles. That is God's approach to your life. Your obstacles are not final. They are not permanent. God is not limited by what the world calls impossible. What seems like a wall to you is a doorway to God. And the doors God opens don't require a key you don't have. They open because God has already prepared the way. I know someone who felt trapped in a job that barely paid the bills. They were overwhelmed, drowning in debt, and every attempt to get ahead seemed to fail. But instead of giving up, they kept showing up. They kept learning, kept praying, kept trusting. One day an opportunity came, completely unexpected, a job, a partnership, a contract, and everything changed. What looked like hopelessness was only the beginning of God showing that he is not limited by human circumstances. Your life is full of hidden opportunities like that. Doors you cannot yet see, money you cannot yet access, ideas you haven't even thought of yet. God can take what little you have, your talent, your time, your resources, and multiply it beyond what you ever imagined. That's the principle. God is not limited by what is, because God sees what can be. God sees the potential in your life, even when you cannot see it in yourself. So when you wake up tomorrow, and the bills feel higher, the problems feel heavier, the dreams feel far away, remember this: your current situation does not define you. God is not limited by it. God is always working, always moving, always opening doors in ways you can't even predict. The question is, will you move with him? Will you step forward with faith, knowing that your situation today is not your limitation, but your launch pad? Trust this: God is not limited by your current situation. Your future is bigger than your fear, greater than your bank account, and brighter than any obstacle in front of you. Believe it, receive it, walk into it, and watch how what seems impossible today becomes inevitable tomorrow. I want you to understand this today. Worry is not just a feeling. It is a silent thief. It creeps into your mind, it whispers lies, and it convinces you that you are powerless. And here's the truth: worry blocks what faith is trying to unlock in your life. You can pray, you can hope, you can dream, but if your mind is consumed by worry, you will not receive the blessings that are already on their way. Faith is a key, and worry is a lock. The more you worry, the more you keep the door closed. Think about this in your daily life. You wake up in the morning, the same list of bills, the same deadlines, the same responsibilities. You start running scenarios in your head. What if I can't make rent? What if I fail at work? What if I don't have enough? And before you know it, your day is gone, consumed by fear. You spent hours in a mental prison, creating problems that don't even exist yet. But imagine for a moment what would happen if, instead of worrying, you put that energy into faith, into trusting that God is already handling the situation. Imagine the doors you could open, the solutions you could see, courage you could summon. Let me give you an example. I know someone who wanted to start a small business. Every day they would think, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough connections, I don't know the right people. They worried endlessly about failure. Then one day they made a choice. Instead of worrying, they started small. They invested what little they had, they focused on learning, and they trusted that God was guiding every step. Within months, the business started growing. Clients came. Opportunities emerged, and what they once feared, the lack of money, the fear of failure, was replaced by growth and progress. The key difference? They replaced worry with faith. Look at it from another angle. Worry keeps your mind cluttered. Imagine trying to drive a car through a storm with fogged up windows. You can barely see the road. Every step feels uncertain, and every decision is second guessed. That's what worry does. It clouds your vision. It makes the path forward impossible to see. Faith, on the other hand, clears the windshield. It gives you clarity. It allows you to take the next step, even when the full road is not visible. It allows you to act in confidence, knowing that the outcome is already in motion, even if you cannot yet see it. I want you to think about the people you admire in life. People who have achieved greatness, who have overcome obstacles, who have risen from nothing. Do you know what they all have in common? They all faced uncertainty. They all faced challenges. They all had reasons to worry, but they refused to let worry control them. They chose faith. They acted on faith, and by doing so, they unlocked doors that worry would have kept shut forever. Even in small, everyday moments, this principle applies. Perhaps you are worried about a conversation you need to have with your boss, a meeting you are nervous about, or a financial decision that feels risky. Worry will make you hesitate, second-guess yourself, and miss opportunities. Faith, on the other hand, gives you courage. Faith allows you to speak, to act, to take the step forward, knowing that the path is already prepared for you. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot chase worry and expect to receive blessings at the same time. One blocks, one unlocks. Here's the truth that many people fail to realize. Worry is a choice. Anxiety is not something that has to control you. You could decide in this very moment that instead of focusing on the what ifs that haven't happened yet, you will focus on the God is already doing this, that is already in motion. You can choose faith. And by doing so, you open your life to possibilities that worry would have kept locked away. Let me paint a picture. Imagine a young woman sitting at her kitchen table, staring at a pile of bills. She worries about how she will pay them, how she will survive the month. She feels trapped, but then she chooses faith. She prays, she plans, she acts, she reaches out for help, she looks for opportunities, and she trusts that God is guiding her every step. Suddenly, doors she didn't even know existed start opening. A friend offers unexpected support. A project comes through at work. Money arrives from a source she never anticipated. That is the difference between worry and faith. One paralyzes, one unlocks. I want you to hear me clearly. Worry is not a sign that you are realistic. It is a signal that you are allowing fear to dictate your life. Faith, however, is not blind. Faith is courageous, deliberate, and intentional. Faith says, I may not see it yet, but I believe it is already done. And when you choose faith, you release the power that worry has been holding captive in your life. You step into clarity, confidence, and action. So today, decide this: whatever situation is causing your mind to race, whatever obstacle seems too big, whatever uncertainty keeps you up at night, give it to God. Trust that He is working behind the scenes, that He is orchestrating the solution, that He is guiding your steps. Worry will never give you clarity. Worry will never open doors. But faith will. Faith will unlock the very thing you've been praying for. Faith will create the path when none seems to exist. Faith will give you peace in the middle of chaos. Remember this: worry blocks what faith unlocks. And today you have a choice. Will you stay in worry, or will you step into faith and watch God move in ways you never imagined? I want you to understand something very clearly. Today, God doesn't just give you opportunities, He opens doors. There is a difference. An opportunity is something you see, something that tempts you, something that appears in your life, but it requires your effort, your resources, and sometimes your luck to make it happen. A door that God opens, however, is a divine alignment. It doesn't require the right timing, the perfect plan, or all the resources you think you need. It opens because God has already prepared it. And when it opens, it leads to something far greater than what you can imagine. Think about your life for a moment. How many times have you worked hard, tried every angle, given it your all, and still found nothing happening? You may have chased opportunity after opportunity, knocked on doors, made phone calls, sent emails, and still nothing opened. And in those moments, it's easy to feel defeated, like the world is against you. But here's the truth. God doesn't work the way the world works. God doesn't ask you to create every outcome. God opens the door, and the right path appears when it is time. Let me give you an example from everyday life. Imagine a young man who has been searching for a job for months. He has applied everywhere, sent dozens of resumes, attended countless interviews, but no one has called back. Every opportunity seems closed. Every lead goes cold. He begins to feel hopeless. But one morning, he decides to attend a networking event just to learn, just to meet people. While he is there talking to someone he barely knows, a door opens. Not a vague opportunity, but a clear door. An introduction to a company that was looking for exactly his skills. Within days, he is hired, and within months, he is thriving. That was not just luck, and that was not just an opportunity. It was a door God opened, perfectly timed, perfectly aligned, and leading him exactly where he needed to be. Here's the difference you need to understand. An opportunity can be missed. An opportunity can slip away if you are not prepared, if you are hesitant, if circumstances shift. But a door that God opens cannot be missed. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to walk through it. God is in the business of creating paths that are beyond human imagination, of aligning people, resources, and moments in a way that you cannot orchestrate on your own. Think about the most successful people you know. people who have achieved great things, who have risen above impossible circumstances. Every single one of them can tell you about a door that opened at just the right moment, a connection that appeared when it seemed there was no hope, a moment where preparation met divine timing. Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, they all had doors open that were bigger than any opportunity they could have created by themselves. And when they walked through, everything changed. That's how God works in your life too. Even in small, everyday moments, God opens doors. Maybe it's a simple conversation with someone at a coffee shop, a casual meeting with a colleague, or a chance encounter on a train. That moment may feel insignificant, but God can turn it into the doorway you've been waiting for. A door is different from an opportunity. It doesn't require you to struggle to make it happen. It is already designed for you to enter. Your job is simply to recognize it and walk through it. Consider a woman who wanted to start her own creative business. She tried to find investors. She tried to pitch her ideas. She tried everything she could think of. Nothing worked. She was ready to give up, thinking maybe her dream was impossible. Then, almost by accident, she met someone who had been looking for exactly what she was offering. The door opened not because she fought harder, but because God arranged the connection. One decision to walk through that door transformed her life, her business, and her future. That is the power of a door God opens. It is already aligned with your purpose. Let me make this personal. How many of you are waiting for opportunities? How many of you are knocking on doors that never seem to open? I want you to stop focusing so much on the struggle and start looking for the doors God has already prepared for you. These doors don't require luck, don't require perfection, don't require endless effort. They require faith and action. When you see the door, walk through it and trust that it leads exactly where you are supposed to go. Remember this, doors are not created equal. Opportunities can fade, luck can run out, timing can fail. But when God opens a door, everything aligns. The right people appear, the right resources arrive, the timing is perfect. It may be a door that looks ordinary to the world, but it is extraordinary in its design. And the moment you step through, you will see the difference between a chance and a divine appointment. So today, stop worrying about creating every opportunity yourself. Stop trying to force doors open that aren't ready. Instead, trust God to open the doors that matter. Watch how God orchestrates connections, resources, and timing in ways you cannot plan. Walk boldly when the door opens, because it is not just any path. It is the path God has prepared for you. And when you do, you will discover that life beyond that door is bigger, better, and more abundant than anything you could have imagined. God opens doors, not just opportunities. And when you understand that, you will stop chasing the world and start walking the path God has already paved for you. The question is, are you ready to step through? I want you to hear me loud and clear today. Delay does not mean denial. Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it will never happen. Life has a way of testing our patience, stretching our faith, and making us feel like the universe is against us. You pray, you plan, you hope, and still the result you are waiting for seems nowhere in sight. It's easy to feel defeated, to look at the calendar, the clock, the seasons, and think, maybe this is never going to happen for me. But let me tell you something. God's timing is not our timing, and a delay is not a denial. It is preparation. Think about it in your daily life. You've applied for that promotion. You've been waiting for that opportunity. You've worked tirelessly on a project, but nothing has materialized yet. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and still silence. Your heart begins to question, am I wasting my time? Is this not meant for me? Here's the secret. The delay is a sign that something bigger is being aligned, that something stronger is being built, and that the moment is not missed. It's being prepared. Let me give you a real life example. Imagine a young man who dreams of opening a business. He's ready. He's excited. He has ideas, energy, and ambition. But when he tries to launch, doors don't open, investors aren't available, and nothing seems to work. He feels the delay acutely. Every day he wonders if he will ever get the chance to step into his dream. But during the waiting, he learns skills he didn't have. He meets people he wouldn't have met otherwise. He gains experience and he becomes wiser. When the time finally comes, he doesn't just walk into the opportunity. He walks in prepared, confident, and ready to thrive. The delay was never denial, it was divine preparation. Even in small, ordinary moments, delays can be disguised blessings. Think about planting a seed. You plant it today, you water it today, but it doesn't sprout tomorrow. You may wonder, did I do something wrong? But the seed is growing beneath the soil, unseen, developing roots, building strength to push through the surface. That is what delay does in your life. It strengthens, prepares, and ensures that when the time comes, you don't just survive, you flourish. Consider the story of a woman trying to achieve a personal goal. Maybe to finish school, start a career, or move to a new city. She applies repeatedly, only to face rejection after rejection. Each delay feels like a door closed in her face. But one day that delay pays off. The experience, the lessons, the connection she built while waiting allow her to step into a position, a job, or a life that is better than anything she could have imagined if everything had come too quickly. Delay was never denial, it was alignment. I want you to think about your finances, your relationships, your health, and your dreams. How many times have you felt frustrated because what you wanted didn't happen on your schedule? Maybe you've prayed, invested, and worked hard, yet the result isn't showing. You may be tempted to give up, to settle, to accept less than what God has promised. But the truth is, the delay is often the doorway to something greater. God is not saying no, God is saying not yet, but I am preparing something better for you. Let me make this personal. Think about a student waiting for exam results, a professional waiting for a promotion, or an entrepreneur waiting for funding. The waiting period is not meaningless. It is teaching resilience, patience, and faith. It is building your capacity to handle what is coming, because what comes too soon without preparation can be fragile. What comes at the right time with the right preparation is unshakable. Even the great achievers of history understood this principle. Every success story you admire, every business tycoon, every artist, every innovator faced delays. They didn't get recognition overnight. They didn't get support immediately, and they certainly didn't see instant results. But they understood that delay was not denial. They continued to work, continued to trust, and continued to prepare. And when the moment finally arrived, they were ready to embrace it fully, without hesitation, without fear, and with the strength to make the most of it. Here's what you need to take with you today. Delays are not punishments, they are signals. They are signals that God is orchestrating your life, lining up resources, people, and circumstances in ways you cannot yet see. The key is to keep faith, to stay consistent, to keep moving, even if the progress seems invisible. Your breakthrough is not missing, it's approaching. And when it comes, you will look back and realize that every waiting moment was worth it. So the next time you feel frustrated by the wait, the next time you feel like nothing is happening, remind yourself, delay does not mean denial. Trust that God is working behind the scenes. Trust that the timing is perfect. And most importantly, trust that when the door finally opens, it will be exactly what you needed, exactly when you needed it, and exactly as God intended. Patience is not passive, it is active faith. And when you walk through life understanding that delays are setups, not setbacks, you will find peace in the waiting, strength in the struggle, and joy in the journey. Your breakthrough is not loss. It's just being prepared. Delay does not mean denial. And today, I want you to step into that truth with courage, faith, and unwavering belief in the good things that are coming for you. I want you to understand something powerful today. Your obedience positions you for overflow. Listen carefully. Faith without action is like planting a seed and refusing to water it. You can hope, you can dream, you can pray, but if you do not align your actions with what God is asking of you, the fullness of what is promised cannot reach you. Obedience is not just following rules. It's stepping into alignment with God's plan. It's moving in faith, even when it doesn't make sense. And it's trusting that the small steps you take today will lead to the abundance waiting for you tomorrow. Think about your daily life. How often do you hesitate to do what you know is right because it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or uncertain? Maybe it's sending that email, making that call, starting that project, or investing your time in learning a new skill. You know it's the right move, yet you pause. And in that pause, opportunities slip by. But when you act, even in small ways, you position yourself for what God has prepared, what I like to call the overflow, OBE. Obedience is the bridge between where you are now and where God wants to take you. Let me give you an example. Imagine a man who always dreamed of owning his own business. He had ideas, talent, and ambition, but he hesitated because he didn't have all the answers. One day, he decided to take the first step. He opened a small online store, invested a little money, and committed to learning as he went. That one act of obedience, though small, set in motion a series of events that he could not have predicted. Customers came, partnerships formed, and within a year, his small venture grew beyond what he ever imagined. His obedience positioned him for overflow, the abundance that follows when you align your actions with purpose. Even in everyday life, obedience matters. Maybe it's as simple as choosing to save a portion of your income instead of spending it all, or deciding to treat people with kindness even when they don't treat you the same. These are small acts, often unnoticed, but they set up a rhythm in your life where God can bring provision, opportunity, and breakthrough. Overflow doesn't always come immediately, but obedience ensures that when it arrives, you are ready to receive it fully. Consider a woman who felt called to mentor young people in her community. She had a full-time job, responsibilities at home, and barely enough time for herself, but she obeyed the prompting to volunteer one afternoon a week. That small act of obedience not only changed the lives of the young people she helped, but also opened doors for her career, connections, and personal growth that she could never have planned. Her obedience created a channel for overflow, blessings that went far beyond what she expected. Obedience is often tested in the little things. It's easy to be patient when everything is going well, but real obedience is demonstrated in the choices you make when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. It's obeying God's instructions even when they seem small, insignificant, or unclear. Every time you step forward in obedience, you position yourself for more resources, more opportunities, more wisdom, more peace. You begin to see a pattern. The more you obey, the more God expands your capacity to receive. Think about it like this. God's blessings are like a river. If the river is blocked by debris, it cannot flow. Obedience is clearing the path. Every step you take in alignment with God's guidance removes obstacles, builds momentum, and allows the river of provision to flow freely into your life. The river doesn't flow because you deserve it. It flows because you positioned yourself to receive it. Obedience opens the channel, and overflow is the natural result. I've seen people who wait for blessings without taking the first step. They hope, they dream, they wish, but they don't act. And they wonder why the breakthrough hasn't come. But here's the truth. God's provision often requires your cooperation. The universe responds to alignment. When you obey, you release energy, open doors, and create opportunities that would have remained inaccessible if you had remained passive. Your obedience is the key that unlocks the overflow that has been waiting for you all along. Even the greatest stories of success, influence, and impact are built on obedience. People who have achieved greatness didn't wait for perfect timing or ideal conditions. They took steps when God prompted them, even if it was scary, inconvenient, or uncertain. Every decision, every action in obedience positioned them to receive blessings far beyond what they could have imagined. Obedience is not the end, it's the starting point for abundance. So today, I want you to reflect on your life. What is God asking of you that you've been hesitant to do? What small step have you delayed because it feels inconvenient, uncomfortable, or uncertain? That is the step that will position you for overflow. Take it. Make the call. Send the email. Speak the word. Invest the time, step forward. Your obedience, no matter how small, is a declaration that you trust God's plan, and it is the bridge to the abundance waiting for you. Remember this, your obedience positions you for overflow. It's the first step, the catalyst, the channel through which God can bring provision, opportunity, and breakthrough. Step into it today and watch how life responds in ways you could never have planned, imagined, or expected. The river is ready to flow. The only question is, are you ready to obey and let it reach you? I want you to hear this clearly today. God supplies according to purpose, not panic. That means the provision you are waiting for, the breakthrough you are hoping for, the abundance that seems just out of reach. It is not determined by how worried you are or how fast you demand it. God's supply aligns with your purpose, not your panic. Far too many people try to force life to move according to their stress, their fear, or their impatience. They chase after quick fixes, they grasp at temporary solutions, and they panic when things don't happen on their schedule. But God is not moved by panic. God is moved by purpose. Think about it in your daily life. How many times have you worried yourself sick over bills, deadlines, or opportunities? You've watched the clock. You've checked your account balance. You've asked, how will I ever make this work? And in that panic, you may have made hasty decisions, settling for less than what you deserve, rushing into paths that were not meant for you. But God is saying to you today, your supply is already aligned with your purpose. You don't need to rush. You don't need to panic. You need to wait, trust, and move in alignment to what you were created to do. Let me give you an example. Imagine a young woman who dreams of starting her own business. She sees other people succeed and begins to panic. She feels like she is running out of time, that her resources are insufficient, and that she must force success to happen now. In her panic, she almost invests in the wrong partnership, takes on the wrong clients, and risks everything she has worked for. But she stops, listens, and aligns herself with her purpose, building her business slowly, steadily, and intentionally. By focusing on her purpose rather than her panic, she attracts the right clients, builds a solid foundation, and eventually sees her business grow in ways she could never have achieved through haste or fear. God supplies according to purpose, not panic. Even in small, everyday moments, this principle applies. Imagine someone looking for a job. They see one posting and panic that it is the only chance they have. They rush through the application, submit a half-prepared resume, and compromise their standards just to secure something fast. That panic-driven action may lead to temporary relief, but it rarely aligns with what they were truly meant to receive. When instead they pause, prepare, and act with purpose, researching the company, tailoring their application, and presenting their best self, they position themselves to receive the role that is truly aligned with their skills, vision, and long-term success. Purpose-driven action always yields better results than panic-driven reaction. Consider a man struggling with finances. He watches bills pile up, notices deadlines approaching, and panics. He borrows at high interest, takes the first job that comes along, or makes hasty financial decisions that trap him in cycles of stress. But imagine if he had paused, evaluated his purpose, and sought guidance aligned with his goals by understanding his purpose, what he was called to do, what he was meant to create, and how he was meant to contribute. He could make choices that not only meet his needs, but position him for long-term abundance. Panic only clouds vision. Purpose provides clarity. Even in relationships, God supplies according to purpose, not panic. Many people settle for less, rush commitments, or make poor decisions because they are panicking about time, loneliness, or fear of missing out. But when you align with purpose, knowing who you are, what you value, and what you are meant to attract, you allow God to supply the right people at the right time in the right way. Panic may lead to temporary satisfaction, but purpose leads to fulfillment. Think about your life as a garden. Panic is like watering it too much, too fast, or at the wrong time. It can drown seeds before they sprout. Purpose is like tending it thoughtfully, giving it sunlight, water, and care in the right amounts. God supplies the rain, the sun, and the growth, but it must be aligned with purpose. Your impatience or panic cannot force growth. You must trust the process and remain in alignment with your purpose, and then the abundance comes naturally. History is full of stories that illustrate this principle. Inventors, Entrepreneurs, leaders, and artists who changed the world did not achieve success through panic. They failed, they waited, they persisted, but they stayed aligned with their purpose. Thomas Edison didn't panic. When his experiments failed, he persisted with purpose. Oprah Winfrey didn't panic when doors were closed in her face. She moved forward with purpose. The supply, resources, opportunities, recognition came as a natural extension of their alignment with their calling. I want you to hear this truth today. Panic may create temporary movement, but purpose creates lasting impact. God is not impressed by your stress. God is impressed by your alignment. When you live with purpose, every step you take positions you for what is meant for you. When you chase with panic, you may gain some things, but you lose peace, clarity, and alignment with your destiny. God is calling you to trust that your supply is already on the way, timed, measured, and perfectly suited to your purpose. So today, take a deep breath, release the panic, and focus on purpose. Ask yourself, what am I here to do? How am I meant to grow? Where is my energy best invested? When you live by those questions instead of the fear of lack, you will find that God's provision is already moving in your favor. Trust the process, trust the timing, and trust that God supplies according to purpose, not panic. Your breakthrough is not dependent on your worry. Your abundance is not determined by your fear. Your life is already aligned with what God has intended. Step into it with faith, focus, and purpose. Panic may press, but purpose prevails. I want you to hear me clearly today. What you release comes back multiplied. This is one of the most powerful principles of life, and yet so many people overlook it. We live in a world that teaches accumulation, holding tightly and guarding every bit we have out of fear of losing it. But God's principle is different. Generosity, trust, and release create a channel for abundance. When you let go, when you give, when you act with an open hand, the universe and God responds. What you release comes back to you, not diminished, but multiplied beyond your imagination. Think about your daily life. How often do you hold back because of fear? Fear of not having enough, fear of being taken advantage of, fear of what might happen if you let go. Maybe it's money, maybe it's time, maybe it's love, maybe it's forgiveness. We guard these things as if scarcity is our only reality. And yet, paradoxically, it is only in releasing that we create space for growth. You cannot pour into others while holding tightly to what you have. The vessel must be open. Let me give you an example. Imagine a young man who feels called to help a struggling friend financially. He doesn't have much, just enough to meet his own needs, but he decides to give a portion anyway. At first it feels risky. He worries, what if I need it later? What if I'm left with nothing? But he gives, and within weeks a door opens for him that he never expected. A new job opportunity arises, a client reaches out, an unexpected gift arrives, the amount he released to help someone else comes back multiplied, not just in the same measure, but beyond what he could have imagined. That is the law. Release and abundance follows. Even in small, everyday acts, this principle works. Consider the person who consistently gives their time to mentor others, support family, or volunteer in the community. They don't do it for recognition or reward, yet over time, opportunities, connections, and blessings flow back to them in ways that far exceed their investment. The principle is simple. When you release with a generous heart, God and life matches that generosity and returns it to you multiplied. Think about relationships. How many of us hold grudges, refuse to forgive, or keep score of every slight? When we release bitterness, when we forgive, when we let go of resentment, we create space for peace, joy, and love to enter our lives. The act of release doesn't mean what was done was okay. It means you choose freedom over captivity. And the miraculous part? That freedom comes back multiplied, restoring your spirit and often transforming the very relationships you thought were broken beyond repair. Consider a business example. A small entrepreneur decides to share resources, knowledge, or connections with competitors instead of hoarding them. In doing so, doors begin to open, collaborations form, referrals arrive, and networks expand. By releasing instead of hoarding, the entrepreneur creates an energy flow that multiplies success far beyond what they could have achieved alone. Release does not deplete, it expands. Even in the realm of ideas, the principle applies. When you share your knowledge, your creativity, your solutions, and your wisdom with others, you create influence, trust, and impact that circles back to you. A teacher who invests in students, a mentor who guides proteges, a leader who empowers their team, all of them experience the multiplied effect of what they have released. You cannot lose by giving what is meant to be shared. The universe multiplies it back to you in ways you could never predict. Here is the spiritual principle behind it. Holding tightly to what you have comes from fear, but releasing comes from faith. It is faith in the invisible, in the unseen, in the fact that the seeds you plant today, even when it seems like a sacrifice, will grow and return to you exponentially. What you release signals trust, alignment, and obedience to the natural and divine laws of abundance. And when you release from a heart of faith, the return is never equal. It is always multiplied. Let me make this personal. Maybe you are holding back your time because you are too busy. Maybe you are holding back your money because you fear lack. Maybe you are holding back love, forgiveness, or encouragement because you worry about being hurt. Today, I challenge you, release it. Release it in faith. Release it with intention. Release it with love. And watch how life multiplies it back in ways you never imagined. The universe has a way of honoring generosity that fear cannot contain. Even the great achievers, leaders, and influencers understand this principle. The ones who build empires, inspire nations, and change lives did not do it by hoarding, by clutching, or by fearing loss. They did it by releasing, investing in people, mentoring, sharing resources, giving back to their communities. And the reward, it always came back multiplied. So today, take stock. What are you holding on to too tightly? What has fear made you cling to, thinking that scarcity defines reality? Release it. Give, forgive, encourage, serve, share. Whatever you release in faith, God will honor, and it will return to you multiplied. Your blessing is not in what you keep, it is in what you give away. The more you release, the more you are positioned to receive the abundance, the opportunities, and the overflow that God has waiting for you. Remember this, what you release comes back multiplied. And today, I want you to step into that principle, walk in that truth, and watch how life, in partnership with God, begins to reward your generosity beyond measure. I want you to hear this clearly today. Peace is proof that you trust God, not the fleeting, temporary peace that comes when everything is going your way, but the deep, unshakable peace that resides in your spirit, even when the world around you is chaotic. Peace is the evidence that you are not relying on luck, your own understanding, or your own strength. It is proof that you trust God is already at work, orchestrating your life for your good. The moment you can feel calm in the middle of uncertainty, confident in the midst of challenges, and composed in the midst of chaos, you have stepped into the power of faith. Peace is not passive. It is active trust in the invisible hand that is already moving on your behalf. Think about your daily life. How often do you wake up, your mind racing with worry about bills, deadlines, relationships, or your future? You may feel overwhelmed, exhausted, or stressed. You may even try to solve every problem immediately, believing that if you cannot fix it, it cannot be fixed. But the truth is, when you have peace in the storm, it shows that you are relying not on your own solutions, but on God's plan. Peace is the sign that you have released control, that you are walking in faith, and that you understand that some things are being handled beyond what your eyes can see. Let me give you an example. Imagine a man who has been waiting for a job promotion for months. He has applied, performed, and exceeded expectations, yet nothing has happened. Many people in his position would panic. They would stress, question their worth, or take rash actions. But this man chooses a different path. He continues to work diligently, keeps performing with excellence, and most importantly, maintains peace in his heart. He trusts that God is orchestrating the perfect timing, that his efforts are not wasted, and that when the promotion is meant to come, it will. His peace in the waiting is proof that he trusts the process and trusts God. And eventually the promotion arrives, timed perfectly, exceeding even his expectations. That peace he maintained, it was the evidence of faith, and it paved the way for his breakthrough. Even in small everyday scenarios, this principle is powerful. Perhaps you are waiting for a payment, a resolution, or a sign of progress in your life. You could spend every moment anxious, restless, and second-guessing, but if you maintain peace in your spirit, you are demonstrating trust in God's timing. That peace allows you to think clearly, act wisely, and make choices from a place of faith rather than fear. Anxiety clouds judgment, peace illuminates the path. Consider relationships. How often do conflicts, misunderstandings, or delays in reconciliation rob people of sleep and peace? Imagine a woman who has been hurt by someone she loves. She could hold on to resentment, replay the pain, and worry about whether things will ever be restored. But instead, she chooses peace. She releases the need to control the outcome and trust that God is at work, guiding hearts and healing situations. That peace doesn't mean she is ignoring the problem. It means she is trusting God's hand to lead, to reconcile, and to provide clarity. And over time, relationships mend, hearts soften, and resolution comes naturally. Peace is proof that she trusts God even when the situation is unresolved. Even in the chaos of daily life, peace demonstrates faith. A parent juggling work, family, and responsibilities, or an entrepreneur navigating uncertainty and competition can easily fall into panic. But those who cultivate inner peace, who remain calm amidst the pressure, signal that they trust the larger plan. Their composure attracts solutions, clarity, and guidance, often in ways that would never have occurred to them if they had panicked. Peace is not passive waiting. It is active preparation, positioning you to receive what is coming with a clear mind and a confident heart. Think about it like this. Peace is a magnet for God's provision. When you are at peace, your energy is aligned with faith, not fear. When you panic, your energy scatters and opportunities pass you by unnoticed. When you maintain peace, doors open, ideas flow, and the right people appear in your life at exactly the right time. Peace is proof that you trust God is already working behind the scenes, even when you cannot yet see the outcome. I want you to reflect on your own life. When have you experienced a moment of calm in the middle of chaos? When have you felt that quiet assurance that despite circumstances, things would work out? That was not luck, coincidence, or wishful thinking. That was your faith manifesting through peace. Peace is the sign that God is in control, that your steps are guided, and that your life is unfolding according to purpose, not panic. Even the most successful leaders, visionaries, and change makers have learned this principle. They don't allow stress, fear, or doubt to drive their actions. They cultivate inner peace because they understand that it is proof of trust, a signal that they are walking in alignment with a higher plan. Peace in the storm is evidence of faith, and evidence always precedes manifestation. So today, I want you to take a deep breath and aim your peace. Regardless of the bills, delays, challenges, or uncertainties, remember that peace is your evidence that God is already moving on your behalf. Trust it. Hold on to it. Let it guide your decisions, your words, and your actions. When you walk in peace, you are walking in faith. And when you walk in faith, God moves to fulfill what has already been promised. Peace is proof that you trust God. And today, as you step out into the world, carry that peace like a banner, knowing that it is the unmistakable evidence that your life is in the hands of the one who is already orchestrating your victory. Your calm is not weakness, it is power. Your serenity is not coincidence, it is proof. And your trust expressed through peace is the key that unlocks the blessings waiting for you.